Starting work at 8 o'clock, please at your desk or wherever working at 8 o'clock.
This is weird. I haven't done this before. Stood up and talked to the microphone to a group of strangers. Welcome to the Beverly Lakes Lake Management Plan. We are using microphone because we've got some people online with us. I think there's 5, 6 people on. It just makes it a lot easier for them to hear what's going on in the room. But I'm just gonna get started because the train has left the station and we need to get going. So we'll just catch people up to speed as they come in. Did it work? Oh boy. Straight off the bat. Okay, here we go. All right. So you all know why you are here, right? We sent you a ballot. You said, yes, I want to talk about a lake management plan, or no, I don't want to talk about a lake management plan.
First of all, excuse me, I never got ballots.
You didn't.
I
Do
got the
you-
notice that came just recently.
It really
Yeah.
wasn't a ballot, it was just a sign up sheet.
No, there were ballots to vote,
So whether you wanted the.
Yes or no,
It-
you want. working
yeah.
plan.
Yeah,
and there's a date of like.
I didn't go that. I didn't get.
yeah, I can.
So we sent out the ballots to the address that is on your borough tax assessment. So that's what we just use for our official public notice. So if your mailing address and your living address are different in the borough system, then that might be a reason why you did not receive one. Or your property might fall within, or not have fallen within the 600-foot
First
buffer.
does.
Or yours does. So, and we can talk more about that maybe one-on-one later, but just as far as.
And Brittany was good about contacting just about everybody she could.
So that's what we go by, is that Matsu Borough tax assessment record as far as any sort of public notice. So let's just make sure that your address for that and your
Well, I
actual
got the
living
second one.
address.
That's how I found out about it. I got the second deal,
Interesting.
here, a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And, I called Carol Brown, I just walked over there.
Yeah.
And asked her if she knew about it, and she said, yeah, that she did. And I said, well, I didn't get anything that said anything about voting or anything. I didn't know anything about it.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you got the second letter. So that makes it very curious that you didn't get the first, because we use the same.
This meeting, right?
Oh, well, yeah, the ballot was not like a vote
Wasn't
to
making
have a
any
lake
decision.
management plan. It was
Oh,
just
okay.
whether or not you wanted to start this conversation or not.
That's good.
So this is just a general outline. I'm just going to touch on some online etiquette, let people on Teams, let them know how they're going to be interacting with all of us here in the room. Lay out a few ground rules, because you all have a lot to talk about as a neighborhood. And so we want to make sure people are doing that in a respectful and courteous manner. And then this is a good sized group that I think it's reasonable to kind of go around and introduce each other. I know that while you guys are in the same community, it seems like some of you don't know each other. So we'll just kind of do that quickly. I'm gonna just touch on like what lake management planning is from the borough standpoint, and kind of like how we got to this point. And then as a large group, we're gonna try to start pulling out some different interests and themes and conflicts that you all are experiencing in your neighborhood. And then after that, we're gonna take those themes and we're gonna break into a small group discussion, and we're gonna try to come up with some solutions for problems. And then after that, we're gonna come back and we're just gonna talk through some of that, and then I will let you guys know, once again, like from the borough standpoint, what our next step could be for you if you decide that you want it. Otherwise, we'll talk about all the different ways that you guys can obviously resolve your conflicts and your interests on your own, separately, and just as neighbors. So quickly for the people online, or if you called in, do a *6 to unmute yourself when it comes time to do introductions or sharing any sort of point of view. If you are in the Microsoft Teams app, you can raise your hand, and that's going to show interest that you would like to talk about something, and then you can also use the chat function and just put a question in to the chat, and we have someone moderating that, and they'll kind of bring those questions to the group. The ground rules are just be nice to each other. Like, y'all are friends and neighbors, and you live in the same place. Like, I talked with so many people leading up to this meeting, and the concerns and the frustrations and everything, like, they are universal. So just be nice, model what you would expect of others, ask questions if you disagree with somebody. Just try to learn a little bit more about it before you just kind of say, absolutely not, and here's like what I want. All right. I can start on the introductions, and then we can just kind of like pass around. My name is Kelsey Anderson. I'm the one that's been sending you the mailers and talking to you on the phone and emailing you, and then emailing you again because I screwed up on the first email. Sorry about that. I don't live on Beverly Lake. I just purchased my first home in Palmer about a year ago. Before that, I lived in Anchorage for 4 years. I worked for DNR doing land use planning and land sales and stuff like that. My favorite time of the year on the lake in general in Alaska, I just absolutely adore summers up here. It's kind of why I wanted to move up here. I like all things water and recreational, and so I spend a lot of time going kayaking with my dog and my fiance, and that's what I like to do. I'm gonna give it over to Lita.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Makes me feel like a rock star.
I know.
My name is Rita Boris. I am also a planner in the planning division at the Matanuska Borough. I am also not a resident of Beverly Lakes. I live out in the Butte. I love it. It's great. A lot of times we get less wind and a little bit more warmth than everyone else, which I'll take. It's very nice. I do love being on lakes. I do love spending time on the water. I think most Alaskan residents feel that way. So I'm just excited to be a part of this process with you guys this evening and help you maybe come to some conclusions about what you need and want.
Oh, started over here.
Oh, yeah.
From Valley, I'm Martin Dickey. I live at about the center of the lake. The one that flies the green and white airplane, and spent 20 years teaching my kids how to water ski on that lake, stuff like that. And it's my wife, Terry.
Hi, we've lived on the lake nearly 30 years, and my parents owned the property for 20 years before that, so we've been on that lake for close to 50 years. And my favorite thing to do is water ski and play in the water.
I'm Kathy Longacre, and I live next up on the south side, and my family bought this property and when it was first available, when it was first subdivided in 1963. I love it there, and of course, summertime is my favorite time.
I'm Les Tillett. I live on the, towards the east end of the lake. I've been there since 1983. And I love living on the lake. It's like the movie on Golden Pond. It's peaceful and beautiful out there, and I love the wildlife on the lake.
Carol Tillett, Les's sister. I live on Beverly Drive on the lake. Lived there on that property. I've owned it for a long time, but I've lived there 20 years. Been coming out to the lake to see family and play on the lake for the last 45 years. The family lived out here.
My name is Brenda Davis. My grandparents bought their property. They own 3 lots on the lake, and it's on North Beverly at the end. And so we basically grew up out there. They were, I believe, the first ones to build on the lake. So it was early 60s.
She's talking about my folks, Les and Laverne Fine, and they built the cabin on the lake in 1966. They moved out there in 1976 when they retired from the jobs at Anchorage. And we've been there, well, we've been out there on the lake for almost 66 years. Me, my kids, my grandkids, and now my great-grandkids play on the lake. So it's been a Good one. I'm Diane Berry, by the way.
I can't follow that, but I'm Melanie West. How are the people here? I live actually on Windy Bottom, where the little extension of the trailhead is. Half of my property is on the parking lot, part of it, so that's kind of why I'm here, and then I was invited by everybody, so, but I have family who live on the lake, and our grandparents live on the lake, and, they're guided, so I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Elaine Hall, or Phillips Hall, and we are the newer folks on the lake. We bought about 2 years ago. And what do we like most is all year long fishing and hunting.
Hi, I'm Thomas Hall. Like she said, we're newbies. This is really our dream home. I'm a retired medic of 27 years, also a paratrooper. The lake is amazing. People are amazing. This is awesome that we have an opportunity to live on such a wonderful lake. So I'll pass it on to this young gentleman right here.
My name is Vince and my wife's name is Diane. Excuse me. She's not here.
There's a story.
My wife's name is Anyway, we've been on the lake a little over 20 years. And right about in the middle of the lake. I like spring and fall the best. And that's when all the wild birds come in and all the other creatures. Love it, always have.
Hi, I am Mary Ann Oldham. Craig and I have been living on the lake since 1997. I love the summers, we go canoeing, and Greg goes ice fishing during the winter time.
My name is Greg Leader. I live on the east end of the lake, down to where Les Tillett lives. We've been out there since the early spring of '81. Property itself was through a family situation from the late '60s. Like it there, raised 2 kids out there. They got to enjoy water skiing, jet skiing, fishing. This isn't the first lake management plan I've sat through in the last 25, 30 years. Hopefully it will all turn out pleasant for everybody.
Hi, my name is Carol Brown. I've lived on the lake for about 29 years, but have ties to it from back in the 80s is when I first bought my lot. My parents have lived there since the early 80s also. My favorite time of year on the lake is probably all year. I think there's something great about all of it.
Ed Jenkins. I bought property about 6 years ago, been living on the lake about 2 years. 4780, that helps with the numbers on the paddles on the start of the driveway. Favorite time of the year? I think mostly summer. It's warm up.
Hi, I'm Patty. I've lived on the lake, me and my husband have lived on the lake about 4 years now, just 4 years. And I love every minute of every day on the lake. I cannot get enough of it. I love the sea and love the people that are around the lake.
Oh, I'm Paul Schrock, so I don't even think there's things working, but I live with her on the lake. I like every minute, especially the summer when the fish are easier to get.
Hi, my name is Brittany Elsas. Um, Yes, I like every minute living on the lake. I've been there, I would say about 12 years, 13 years.
Very nice. So Brett Elsas, lived on the lake for going on 13 years. Absolutely love living there. We've raised 3 kids there, working on a 4th. I would say probably the favorite time of year on the lake would be winter time. Big fireworks day, and we have most stuff up on New Year's Eve, so it's really fun having the community out there and the kids go to the house. So, been great living in the community. All the neighbors have always been, it's kind of a chance to get to know and deal with it. So, thanks.
My name is James Smith. I live, excuse me, right there in the middle lake. Me and my wife and 5 kids have been on the lake for since 2004. We have lots on the lake and all across the street there. We have 5 kids, 5 grandkids. Use the lake all the time. We love the wildlife, the fishing, love it all. Yeah, plenty of books to back like that. We'll see us trolling around all the time. So it's nice to meet all the folks. And I hope we have a successful resolution to our management plan. So.
Hi, sir. New Year's. My name is Tish, and we live on the west side of the lake, and our favorite time of the year is every time except for when the ice isn't frozen enough to get on yet. And we lived there, I think, 13 years. I'm not really sure.
I am Peter Mars. I live at the east end of the lake. We've been there a little over 20 years. I prefer the summers.
I'm Dave Chalfie, been on Beverly Lake about 1.5 years, around the Rice Circle side. Summertime is probably the best time.
All right. Everybody gets an A. Good job. Oh, yeah, online people. Oh, and Maya.
See, I thought I was gonna get to sneak away.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Maya. I work with the planning division of the borough, and I have not been here for decades. I have survived my first Alaskan winter. And excitedly, happily, obviously, I don't live on Beverly Lake, but I did grow up on a small lake in northern Wisconsin. So a lot of what you guys are talking about, I've been through a lot of that too. And I have a lot of faith that you guys are going to be able to find a resolution. Happily. Yeah. And then those who are online.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. What do we got? I knew you didn't say anything, but do you want to say anything?
No, this is my husband. I'm Jennifer.
Okay. Do you want to say hi?
Okay, since you walked it down. Hi, Jennifer Smith. I'm Jacob's wife. We've been there since 2004. Love every minute. Can't wait to get back to the lake.
All right. Okay, so Maya, if you just want to go down the line maybe and call people and unmute them.
Oh, that's true. We can go ahead and give a shot, you guys, to do your introductions for those of you that are online. We don't have our speaker system set up, so if we're not able to hear you very well, you can also go ahead and type your name and your info in the chat, but we'll give it a shot. I see, I'm gonna start with Roberta. Roberta, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you?
Yeah.
Am I too loud or anything for you?
They do not expect this stiff Ukrainian resistance. They are
Roberta, are you still there?
Yes, I heard a speaker, so I didn't want to continue.
Yeah, no worries. You go ahead.
Okay, I've lived about a year and a half on the lake with my daughter and son-in-law, the Halls that introduced themselves earlier. However, this isn't my first rodeo of Alaska. I came in 1961 and spent almost 50 years here, then left because of my husband's illness and returned. So I love Alaska, and we'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, Tracy, do you want to unmute yourself and give an introduction?
Hi, everybody. My name is Tracy Smith. I am the Angler Access Coordinator for the Department of Fish and Game. I'm based right here in Palmer. I live in Palmer. I was born and raised in Alaska, and my favorite thing is to get anglers, and including myself, safely to and responsibly to angler access areas so they can enjoy the lakes just like you guys have the joy of living on them year round. So whether it be moving water or frozen water, I'm all about it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's see. I know I've got Ted on there. Ted, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, certainly. Hi, everyone. My name is Ted Eisheid, and I'm a planner here with the Mat-Su Borough. And I listened with interest because when I started with the borough a little over 4 years ago, I started as a support for the borough's volunteer lake monitoring program. And I had a chance to go out with several volunteers on a variety of lakes in the borough to help them monitor their water quality. And if there's one thing I learned, that even though there's lots of different uses of lakes, everyone that uses them loves them. So I hope you guys can find that common ground to realize everybody there at the meeting and online loves their lakes. So good luck, everyone.
Thanks, Ted. All right, Wendy, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hello, I'm Wendy Stevens, and I'm a lifelong Alaskan, but I've only lived in Wasilla, the Beverly Lake area since about close to 5 years ago. And we live on the lake, and we just love it. Our whole family enjoys it, and we love it the most in the summer, but actually year round, it's pretty special to live on that lake as well.
Awesome, thank you. Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Myers from the Fish and Game Habitat Office in Palmer. I'm a habitat biologist here. I deal with fish habitat permitting. I don't live on Beverly Lake, but I'm interested in learning more about the lake management plan process.
All right, thank you, Sarah. And it looks like we've got one more. Melissa, are you there?
Hello, I am here. I am Melissa Regas. I think I've been here for about 3 years. I'm not right on Beverly Lake either, but we're on Kalmbach and we can see part of Beverly if we walk a certain way. And my favorite time of year on the lake is year round because it's different pretty much every day.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Did it again. Okay, so the reason why the borough is even facilitating this conversation for you all right now is that our lake management plan is about as grassroots as we get as far as our planning division goes. So we, the only way that we start lake management plan is if the community shows interest by getting signatures on a petition. So I'm sure that many of you in here have your names on the petition, and so maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. Well, I'm going to go through the boring legal stuff quickly. There are 2 different titles in borough code that basically say the borough has the authority to regulate use on waterways. And then we have Title 17 that's under our zoning that gives very specific guidelines about what those uses that we can regulate actually are. So we have code enforcement officers that manage a ton of different things in the area, like conditional use permits and things like that. But as far as lake management plans go, it's really just quiet hours, no wake zones. I wrote it down here. Special permits, ice house registration, motorized watercraft, personal watercraft, and winter vehicle use. So when you're kind of thinking through like the issues and the conflicts that are going on your lake, keep in mind that that's really all the borough has the legislative authority to manage on water bodies. So part of that Title 15 about how to initiate a lake management plan really lays down quite straightforward as far as like what are the requirements that the borough needs in order for me to even facilitate a public meeting like this. So back in November of 2021, I received what we call a valid petition. So there is a 600, sorry, this is all, it's hard to go through. It's all just like very jargony and governmenty. But so the way that we did, like we'll say the mailers and how we decide what's valid and what's not is that for all public notices that the borough does, unless it's laid out differently, the assembly chose 600 feet from like the source of the project or the source of the whatever that's getting public noticed. So for Beverly Lakes, that is a 600-foot buffer from the shoreline of the lake out. So that's what I did when I received that petition of signatures to then like validate to make sure that everybody actually lived within that buffer, and that was considered valid. So once we got through that petition process, that is when you should have all received a ballot. I'm sorry that that didn't happen for you. And that ballot that most of you I'm sure saw was a vote yes or a vote no to initiate a lake management plan process. It turned out that we ended up getting 62% of the votes back saying, yes, we just want to move forward with learning more about lake management planning and that. So that is really how we got to where we are today. Does anybody have any questions about like the process itself? Yes.
Why do you go 600 feet from the lake? I mean, there are a lot, probably half people that could vote for this, don't live on the lake.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect them at all.
Yeah, no, that's a super valid question. So like I said, that 600-foot buffer, that was essentially chosen by an assembly like in 1984 when we were going through what's the appropriate buffer when you have some sort of project that could potentially cause some like conflict or something like that. So when you're going to publicly notify residents of an area, what seems reasonable. And so that's that 600-foot buffer. It's not specific to lake management plans. We use it for conditional use permitting and other like types of project areas. So that's where the 600 feet comes from. And well, right now, actually, we are like going through this process with Beverly Lake because we've done a lake management plan since 2014. So these aren't super popular. There's only 41 of them within the entire borough. And so part of my job with this is to actually go through and see where things are maybe inefficient or don't really make a lot of sense for what we do here with lake management planning. So moving forward, that might be able to change. Maybe we just say property owners around a lake. But something to keep in mind is that all water bodies in Alaska, like they're public. We have to maintain public access, and just because you own property around a lake does not mean that you own the lake. And while you guys can have the docks and get your motorized, like your boats and your jet skis and things like that actually on the lake. People can still walk the section line easement and go and take their kayak or kind of do whatever. So it's a bit of maintaining public right as well to access water bodies. Yes.
Well, you brought up that you haven't really initiated another lake management plan since 2014. That brings to mind, I can remember being told that borough was getting out of the lake management plan business. What got them back into it again?
Question. So like I said, this is like grassroots for planning where we did not initiate it, your neighbors did. And there has been some conflict around lake management planning. A couple years ago, one of the like higher up members of the planning department at the borough was trying to reorganize to standardize the lake management process. Got hit with a ton of negative public feedback. People are like, does this mean that there's going to be like standard regulations on every lake? Like what is going to happen? And so because like there was like a major lack of outreach and education on that subject, and in all honesty, it might just not have been that good of an idea, it got squashed. So we have not initiated another lake management plan, and like as far as like the legality of it in our code, we don't actually have the authority to initiate a lake management plan. It has to be done from the residents with a petition, with the valid signatures, within the right buffer, and then the ballot vote to even get us to this point where we're all in the same room and we're just like talking through the conflicts. Yeah. Anybody else? All right, I'll keep going. Every time. Okay, so like I said, with the ballots, it really is just like majority rules, however many come back. If it's over 50%, then we start facilitating these public meetings. But what we are really here to do is to try and reach some consensus with you all about what are the actual issues on your lake? What are some conflicts you've all been having with each other that you really want to fix and solve? And so that's kind of why we're just all here right now. So at this point, we're just going to kind of jump in. This is a really good sized group to take the time to actually just like talk and figure some things out. So in keeping in mind some of these questions, like what does a successful meeting even look like for you all? Are there, I know that there are people who want a lake management plan and people who don't. Is there like some sort of next step that people are looking for? And then talking through any sort of like issues and conflicts. And if you even see the borough playing a role in this, because it's my ideal situation for you all is that you do not end up with a lake management plan. Like, if you can figure this out between yourselves as a community of Alaskans who all love where you live, that's the most ideal thing. If you see us playing a role for you with maybe implementing like quiet hours or a no wake zone or something like that, I'm here, we are all here acting as a facilitator to answer any questions you have about what the borough can do for you. But yeah, so I guess unless somebody goes totally wild and crazy, we do have the ability to mute the mic, but I trust you all. So if anybody wants to kind of just get the conversation rolling, Lita here is just helping me to, we're going to try to just kind of like grab out some themes from what everybody's talking about. So that when we kind of break into smaller groups, you all kind of have some things to discuss as far as like possible solutions for the conflicts that you're seeing on your lake. So I don't know if somebody has maybe like a story about a conflict of interest or something like that that you might, or a conflict of use that makes you feel really strongly one way or the other, but you know. Or I can just ask you questions.
Okay, so again, we don't want to fight with each other, so I'll tell you where I'm coming from and the stories that I have. I'm raising little children. A couple of years ago, there was a jet boat, came down, almost took out some of the kids that were swimming. And I'll let somebody else tell that story because it wasn't my children. But that was something we saw. The next thing is this summer, we had no baby loon that I saw. Usually we see 2, I saw 0. I don't know.
There were.
Okay, well, I didn't see two in one. Yeah, right, usually. Okay, well, I did not see that this year. So in my mind, there wasn't one. Obviously, maybe there was. But I was, so the wildlife has changed regardless over the last 2 or 3 years. Like, there's been less, usually all swans come back with their gray babies. They did not last year that I saw again. I mean, I'm not there every day, but I am there often. So none of those babies I didn't see either. And regardless if usually the loons have 2 babies and then get down to 1, I myself saw 0. And again, I'm not there every day, but I'm there often enough to every other year see them but last year. So those are my concerns. Another concern was it was 11, I have it on my phone, I think it was 11:50 or 10:50, sorry. 10:52. And there's some kids out jet skiing. So we holler them over and we're like, hey, like, what's going on? They both say they're down by where the loon nest is. And last year we put up signs that said loon nesting here so that people knew. They said we didn't see the sign. I said, okay, well, who are you guys? They said, oh, our friends live in that house over there. They're not here. We're using their place and we're out here jet skiing. So here it is late. Somebody told them 11 p.m. They had to get off, but other than that, they were free to do it. They had no idea about birds on the lake or anything like that. They were just given the go-ahead to do as they wished. On separate occasion from the same home, another kid was out, and on our end of the lake, which is the west end, it is very, very, like, from here to that yellow sign is how wide the lake is down at our end. So he was in the middle and he was flipping roadies, which you do on a jet ski, right? I've been there, I've done that, not on our lake. And it was making wake, coming up and splashing the shore to where one of the docks next door cut loose and ended up at the end of the lake because it was a man who does not stay there. It is only his summer property that he uses just for a cabin. So there was no one to take care of it for him, no one to get it out, and it ended up at the end being completely crashed. So that was another thing that happened. And like I said, even on our end, because it is not wide enough, there is no way to really have a good time without having it affect some of the shoreline, in my opinion.
So to kind of reiterate a little bit and make sure that we're staying on track up here, what we're starting to hear is that there's some concerns over loon population, changes within the wildlife, and overall safety, right? Like safety with your children, safety with your property, and property value as far as like wakes and things like that. Does anybody else want to kind of share anything?
I just want to kind of, I guess it's kind of the same stuff that Tish had said. You know, big safety concern, just on my sorry, can you hear me? Big safety concern on my standpoint on, you know, especially with, there's a jet boat. And one of my kids was one of the kids a few years back that was swimming in the water and that boat came dangerously close to hitting him. And as a mom, it just absolutely terrified me. You know, and this person, it just seems like they fly around the lake and don't even do a considerate, like, you know, consider it like for other people, like, anyway, sorry, I'm nervous. You know, it's like, just do a simple drive-by of, you know, to make sure there's no kids swimming out there, or, you know, just for safety would be nice, but I think it's a safety concern for sure. I mean, all the noise from the jet skis lately,
And I've lived there 12 years, and I gotta say, over the 12 years, it's been relatively peaceful and quiet, and, you know, I worry about the wildlife too. You know, and I know a lot of people worry also about, you know, the lake and erosion of the properties. It just seems it's been a little excessive the last couple of years. But I don't know how to change it, but it's kind of weird.
Kids do cool drawings over here. So, some of your neighbors were not able to attend the meeting and, excuse me, have already emailed in some different, like their comments and everything like that.
I'd like to comment.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember the two ladies coming to my door last summer and asking me to sign that petition. And I wanted to know more about it, and so they told me basically what. And I wouldn't sign it. I said, I think that you need to go and you talk to the people that were doing the, you know, what you feel is inappropriate, and not try to punish everybody else on the lake that has water skied, fishing boats, even jet skis, yeah, snow machines, everything. I mean, there's ways to deal with that rather than, you know, it's like a teacher punishing the whole class for something that one kid did. And that's not right either. So anyway, that's my feeling.
There's a couple of people online. We're gonna.
All right, we have Wendy.
Oh, hold on.
Wendy, you can go ahead and speak.
Okay, I wanted to mention that, you know, we've lived on the lake going on about 5 years, and the first couple years we were there, I think we had a friend bring a little boat over and we pulled the kids on an inner tube one time. We didn't have a jet ski until last year. So if we were on the lake, it was only like once or twice during the year. We were pulling little kids. We put everything away no later than like 9:30, maybe quarter to 10. But there was nobody drunk. We weren't being wild. It was more of a family and friend, just a really fun night. And the thing is that as we pulled it, and I warned everyone, do not go even close to the shoreline because of the birds that are nesting there. And the thing is that we had only enjoyed the lake like once or twice, and we had these people directly across from us. They were flipping us off and yelling cuss words and right in front of the kids. And we didn't even, first we thought they were waving, and we were like waving to them, and like then we realized what they were doing. And the thing is that all I have seen, but I don't doubt what these people are saying about their kids' safety, and I totally agree with that. And I've even told our kids when they were jet skiing, because I have grandkids and my own kids, and we may have abused it a little because we got the jet ski in June, and we had a bunch of company in June, and we were all super excited about it. And our intention is not to ride it the way we did last June, because I know we did ride it a lot. But I told the kids, if you see these people trying to have some quiet fishing time out there on their floating device, you know, they have like the floating raft, then I told them to park it. Like I don't even know about going to the other end of the lake. If anyone would have just approached us, you know, and just said, you know, you're really bothering us, or, you know, they know what house we live in if they see our jet ski going out. We don't want to make our neighbors upset. Like we would rather talk and work about this out without, you know, obviously no one knocked on our door for the petition because we weren't going to sign it. But the thing is that we're not mean people. We would like to work with people on this. And it's just, when you buy a house and you know it's a motorized lake, and you carefully consider a purchase of, you know, that magnitude, and where you're going to spend time, you know, we're not going to keep moving. This is our house and we're going to stay here. And I cannot imagine my own self buying a house on a lake that's not motorized and then complaining Like, suppose that I bought a house that on a lake that's not motorized, and then I get like a little bug up my, you know what, and I say, oh, I want this to be a motorized lake, you know, and so I change all the rules for all these people, and I go to all this trouble to change the rules on a lake that I knew when I bought on it was not motorized. So like these people bought on a non-motorized lake because they don't want motors. But I'm very puzzled why people that live on a motorized lake are complaining that they're on a motorized lake. Like, you bought on the motorized lake. So why are you trying to spoil it for the people that did buy on it? And I do understand if people are being unsafe and running over kids or having close calls, like that's understandable that they would be upset. But there's got to be another way to handle the problem besides banning and punishing everyone because some rogue kid got on a jet ski when someone was out of town. I guess that's just how I feel.
Thank you very much.
That's not the only hand we have up right now.
Okay. Oh, that is the only hand? Is there anybody else online that might want to let us know how you're feeling out there? Or just raise your hand if you have a story that comes to mind or would like to share your perspective.
Can anybody hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
Yep. Let's see. Yep, just a second here. Let's see. Is it Judy?
Yes, and you know what? I just was able to get on just now. I was having internet issues, but I would just like to say that I have watched people out there. I feel like for the most part, people are very, very safe, and I think it's very good family entertainment. And I don't understand why, when you buy your property, I don't actually live on the lake. I live across from the lake, but if I'm at my house across the street from the lake, I can't hear any loud noise that would be disturbing to anybody. And if a person actually would just, I mean, as long as people are safe and having a good time, I can understand if somebody is being reckless that you would be concerned about it. But I have never heard of anybody being reckless out there, and I've lived here for 4 years now. And I just think it seems kind of silly to live on a lake that when they bought was motorized. Why would you complain about motor vehicles or motorized entertainment out there? It just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you buy on a motorized lake if you're unhappy with
it? Okay, oh, sorry. We'll go here and then right here.
Just a couple comments. One of them is on the regarding the public's general interest. I've lived on the lake for roughly 40 years now. Some of the people here are much longer than me. And I've seen many instances in 40 years of people just being rude, negligent, careless, chasing wildlife on their jet skis, on their motorboats. You look at the wildlife we used to have on the lake. When I first moved out there, there were beavers and otters on the lake. Or chased off out of the beavers that they tore out their dens at the end of the lake. But also on the birds, redneck grebes, we used to have dozens of them on the lake. They nest on the lily pads. That doesn't last long. After a couple of seasons, people literally just running through the lily pads on their jet skis, destroying the nests. Used to be a lot of loons on the lake. They were gone for a while, then they're back. Now they're kind of intermixed. Swans, I moved away for several years. When I came back, we had the trumpeter swans on the lake, and they're not a very common bird. And they were there up until last year, or the year before. Again, people harassing them have chased them off. They'll come in now. This last summer, they would come in, swim around for a while, feed, and then leave.
They've been there every year.
We feed them, but don't tell that fishing
They're not
game
listing
guy.
there
They throw the thread in the water. I don't know if they ever did.
Oh, they did. It's
Well,
mostly
they
that's
don't
nice.
have their own.
At any rate, so there's a concern with the wildlife. So it's not just the birds, although there's as well as the otters and the beavers and other animals in the area. And I've seen many instances of people with complete disregard for the general public safety or out jet skiing at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's just not right. You're disrupting it. I don't want to see people have restricted not being able to enjoy the lake. I didn't raise kids at the lake, but I know Greg and Callie Leader next to me did. And their grandchildren come out and play on the lake. But there has to be some kind of something that can be done when people are being out of line, disrupting the wildlife. Some restrictions, no wake zone near the lily pads. That
I want to get rid of
dealt with.
those.
Yeah.
Trying to kill them.
I've dealt with Fish and Game repeatedly through the years, and they say, oh, well, you can do this, you can do that, but we're not going to do anything. Fish and Game will not do anything to help.
What you got?
I just wanted to, Ted popped in a really good comment that I just wanted to share that said, I see an interest. How can we practice motorized uses on Beverly Lake in a way that is safe and respects neighbors?
How about you become a better parent?
Yeah.
I was very disappointed that we had to come to this. As neighbors, can't we just get together and work it out? Come on, kids, let's play together nicely. If there have been problems with people on the lake, and I've heard of some things, but they're very few and far between. For the most part, there aren't that many jet skis on the lake. For the most part, people are done playing in the water by 9 or 10 o'clock at night, for the most part. And then as far as the wildlife, if we had some kind of markers, 50 feet away from where the birds are nesting, signs, like someone said there was a sign, I've never seen a sign out there. But if we can do those kinds of things, that we could just do better ourselves. We don't need the borough to come in and tell us how to manage our lake.
You do.
Yeah, no, we don't.
It's against the law to put things in the lake that are not authorized. You probably know that with the microphone.
There's what he says?
Just because I have the microphone does not mean that I know anything.
Well, that brings us to code 17, enforcement. So let's say we hypothetically get the lake management plan. So you get a lawbreaker, a rule breaker. And how do they deal with it? Does a guy with a sniper rifle take them off the jet ski?
Whoa, bud.
Or what? Well, I mean, you have to have.
I hope you don't ever apply for a code enforcement job. No, so as far as how the borough regulates lakes, that is a good question. No, it is not with sniper rifles. No, so I mean, so like I said, we do code compliance for all sorts of stuff. So the way that it would happen is if you all were to say, implement a no motorized watercraft use whatsoever on your lake, in your lake management plan, and the assembly adopts it, and it goes into Title 17, and here we are with our code enforcement officers as they're looking for things to do. First of all, there's way more important things that they do than manage people on boats.
Yes, exactly.
Also, there are so many lakes in the borough, like, we don't have people that are patrolling out on lakes. So ultimately, it ends up becoming a neighborhood watch issue.
Right,
And so it ends up being somebody with a cell phone that catches their neighbor, and in the off chance that they send it to us, and we have the time to go to the lake right in that moment and see them with our eyes and give them a citation, then they would owe $150.
Right, so where do I pay the fine?
It can happen every time. There's no limit on the amount that you could be cited for that, but that's how it goes, right? It's like, it comes down to a neighborhood watch thing. So you all are already kind of doing that with each other.
If I got to interject one thing here, I haven't really seen much of a problem with people that live on the lake. But as pointed out at the beginning of this meeting, there's 2 other legal accesses to the lake for the general public. And that's who I've been seeing problems with.
Yes.
Well, okay, it doesn't do any good to
everybody.
Yeah.
Yes,
The rules can apply to everybody, but if there's no borough enforcing the rules, and it's just up to the local community. Okay, how do I enforce the rule of the guy that's out there running over the bird's nests or stuff?
Yeah. But if I can ask the question, just to
Sure.
clarify, I was able to go out and walk the public access and familiarize myself a little bit with the area, and a member of the general public would not be able to get a jet ski out onto Beverly Lake. I don't know.
The jet ski.
Reasonably saying they would not be able to get a motorized boat or anything. I've got an inflatable kayak I could put down on the back and go out there.
That's a 33-foot
Do
wide
it for the
access
living
access down the middle of the lake. People have cleared it out
Where?
slowly. In the middle of the lake.
We
So
got private accesses. We have the public.
that's a 33-foot public access at the center of Beverly Lake. It's a section line access.
That one,
Yes.
that was vacated
No.
because
Oh, are you talking about the one on the north side or the east side?
the one was vacated
One on the
during
north side.
to survey changing of the property lines.
Right, not the one on the east side though.
Is that the roadside?
Yes.
The east side would be,
It's halfway.
The one on the roadside is not even an easement, it is dedicated right of way. There's a section line, and the section line was moved, that easement was moved, relocated. The section line easement was relocated, however, the dedicated right of way is still existing. I have the plan, so I know. It's dedicated right of way, it's like a road. It's not just an easement, it's right of way.
Yes.
You can't drive down it. You got a berm and you got a walkway and you got trail that's, that's why it's half that, people walk on it, drive snow machines down it. To get on the lake, four-wheelers to pull kids on the lake and stuff like that. So there's two accesses and the map shows them if you go on the map. The one is they got the parking area and you can walk into the whatever side is, that's the south side. And then you have the other one that's on the north side. I'd be very happy if people are interested in getting rid of the one on the north side. Anytime people want to do that, I would be very happy to support that.
We might have a public area, maybe from Chief Public Access Guru. Want to go here? Then we'll go here, okay?
Oh, yeah. Can I, really quick, online, they said it's really hard to hear if people are talking over each other. So just try to let whoever has the microphone do the talking. Thanks, guys.
So, you have one access on your land or it goes down your property, is that what you said?
Adjacent to our property, it's not on our property, it's adjacent to our property.
So I'm on Windy Bottom. My property, my property goes through that parking lot on Windy Bottom. And that's kind of why I'm here to talk about the issues we've been having from going there to access both the lakes. And since we have bought and moved right there, the neighbors have said a lot has been cleaned up, but the issues with living right there and people going back to the lakes to Kalmbach, because it's Kalmbach and Beverly, like right here where I'm at. And I'm talking drugs, needles, prostitution. One lady parked and dumped, literally, she had a car and she shoved black bags of trash. And I'm sitting there at the corner of my lot and I'm looking at her. And I waited, thinking, trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, like, gotta clean it up, waiting. It was 5 hours later. And they get in their car and they start looking like they're gonna leave. And I'm like, excuse me, are you gonna pick that up? And she's like, could you leave me? So I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, right, lady. Anyway, just a small little issues like that. And I don't know, just the public nonsense that's been going back there that is ridiculous. I love the lake. I have family that lives on Beverly also. And I also, my house goes to the back of Kalmbach. And so I'm kind of like between your guys' little
issues with actually being on the lake. But I am the one who has to deal with all the traffic going over there. And it's just been a nightmare. Last winter, somebody went up on a bank and decided they were drunk, decided they're gonna have a bonfire in the middle of the road at 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's just crap like that. And I don't know, I'm not for the lake management. I was wondering where I stand. But I think that the community and us neighbors, I feel like we're a bunch of adults that can talk to each other and can figure out some way to keep everybody safe. If it's people walking back and forth, if it's, you know, Beverly is motorized. Kalmbach is not motorized, at least that's what it says on the local boxes. But that doesn't stop anybody. They've blown down this little pillars that are right there, snow machiners, dirt bikes in the summer, four-wheelers. I mean, it's just nobody is respecting anybody, and I think that's where so many of us just need to like have a nice and neighborly conversation. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. That was almost a quarter's worth.
What was that?
So that was almost a quarter's worth.
Well, I've been rough the last week. No.
Okay, well, I mean, we can keep going for a bit. I do want to just keep this rolling because we are hearing a ton of common interests and common themes. And so getting to a point where you guys can actually start talking to each other and working out some possible solutions is really going to be like the meat of this meeting. So we've got a couple hands up here and then we've got some people online as well. So let's try to work through some of these and then maybe within about 15 minutes or so, we can start thinking about breaking out into the small groups.
Thank you. I'm born and raised in Nikiski and lived on a lake from birth. And I'm such a big believer in the ability, when we were naughty as kids, I assure you, my mother, who you heard earlier, there was someone calling her, she knew before I got home, and it was that neighborly respect. And I'm really hoping that we can walk away from this with that same kind of neighborly respect. That said, I do think there's 2 sides of every coin. The birds, beautiful. We love watching them. They showed up at our wedding, 7 swans and 9 ducks and couple loons. And literally they showed up at our wedding. Beautiful, right? What a great photo op we had 2 years ago. That said, the other side of that coin is the swimmer's itch that we have so bad on this lake. You know, we've had to listen to our grandkids scream and cry and have to go to the doctor, and it's bird ducks who feces who create it, right? So there's 2 sides to that. The other, I do find it interesting that there's a big focus on jet skis, but not snow machines. We wake up every single morning, we're retired, so we wake up and we lay in bed with coffee. And we look out at a beautiful lake, and late at night before we go to bed, we look. I love seeing those kids playing hockey, and I love seeing people out there fishing. And the snow machines out there, yes, they're found loud, but we knew when we purchased this land that this is what we were in for. We would not have purchased this house if this had a management rules and regs. We also keep on our property anything to rescue people out there, retired medic. We have everything ready to go out and rescue kids, rescue anyone, and we talk what we do if a moose went in the water, and we have kind of plans for that. So I'm kind of a middle roader on this. I do not believe in rules and regs. I'm Alaskan, live in Wasilla, but we got to learn, seriously, we're Wasilla folk. But there has got to be ways to protect these kids that are potentially getting injured, and there's just a middle ground, perhaps a different form. We could have a Facebook locked website on Facebook. I'd be happy to help manage it. So if we have a concern, a complaint, we can have a conversation. So that's my point. Let's be neighborly. We're all here for the right reasons.
One of the concerns I haven't seen raised, and well, I absolutely agree, and it seems really reasonable, everybody who lives there, because they get something out of the lake and they get to do something on the lake. That's great. Sure, what people ask one, try to take something from somebody, and probably be more likely to defend what they want to do. However, when things like larger boats with big motors and jet skis are out there, and it only even takes maybe just one jet ski or just one boat, it immediately removes the option from anybody who wants to say go out on a paddleboard or go fishing or go canoeing. I mean, with all of the wakes and, you know, and the safety issues that may or may not be concerned, especially when I see, you know, younger kids out there on big high-powered motorized jet skis, you know, at high speeds, who don't have maybe the best developed brains quite yet, not making really great choices, getting pretty close to people or property or docks and whatnot. I guess the point of it was just that when one person's out there, especially on a jet ski, it, you know, there have been many times where I've, you know, wanted to go out and say, go fishing on the dock or maybe the canoe or boat or something. And it's like, as soon as I see the jet ski, it's like, God, forget it. So now, what, not just me, but how many other people might be sitting on the shore waiting for this person, this one person who was removed an option for everybody else, or at least some people, to go and have some recreational experience of their own.
So as I'm handing it over, that reminds me of one of the comments that's up on the screen right now, that is just talking about that we can compromise on some things like quiet hours, or maybe not riding as close to shore. And something to consider when you're talking with each other and trying to come up with these solutions to these really common themes that you all are thinking and feeling about, is that if you decide to go the lake management plan route, there is the only like thing that has to bind what you do are those like 7 categories of enforceable regulations that the borough has. But it is not a one size fits all. If you want quiet hours, but you only want them on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, like you can do that. If you want motorized use, that's between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturdays, or like literally whatever. I can write the legislation and write it into code any way that specifically suits the needs of your community. It just has to fall under one of those regulations that we actually have the power to enforce. Not saying that you need to or that you should, but as you're thinking of solutions, like I would urge you to get creative in thinking about ways that you can be more neighborly. Like I think the Facebook idea is fantastic. But also like if you want to use the borough to just like have clarity and define those boundaries with each other, we can make that look pretty much any way that you want it to look.
I've lived on the lake since 1981. I think my husband and I are the longest people out there other than Carol's parents at this point in time.
81?
Anyway, and there have been times when we've had people out with boats, and that's okay. My kids enjoy it when they were younger. Martin and Terry's kids, it was great. At least my kids were out on the lake, not at somebody else's house doing something wrong. And so it's a great place for kids to learn and do things. And as long as, you know, they're respectful because their parents have taught them to be respectful, there shouldn't be any problem in sharing the lake. The number of days that jet skis are out on the lake is not even 50% of the time. So everybody needs to have their time on to recreate. So make sure you give other people a chance and share the lake with them. So.
I just kind of wanted to say that you really touched on it with something you said, and just to give you a little history, we did this lake management plan, I don't know how long ago, and I was totally against it. I mean, I fought it tooth and nail. But things have changed over the years. There's more people living on the lake. There's so much disrespect from people. And like Callie was saying, if parents would teach their kids to be respectful, it would be a whole different situation. But that doesn't happen. And if you go tell somebody you need to teach your kid to be more respectful, they're going to tell you to screw off. I mean, that's just pretty much the way it works. That's today's thing. But back to what you said it seems to be jet skis. It is jet skis, and that's, I mean, it's not all jet skis for some people, but for the most part, any new person that ever moved onto that lake that I met, I said, do not bring a jet ski onto this lake. You will start a lake management plan. And like clockwork, that is what is happening. That lake is too small for jet skis. It really is. And it's the noise, it echoes there. It just vibrates, you know, and I get annoyed because it's hot in the summertime. All my windows and doors have to be open. I'm dying in my house and I have to sit there and listen to this constant nonstop noise. And it is a problem. It's not just for an hour. And I will say, yes, it's not very many days of the week. But the problem is when it does happen, it's so abused, it's insane. But it really is, like, to me, all about the jet skis. The lake is too small for it. It's not Big Lake. And it's just, you can only get going so fast. I've ridden jet skis before. They are a blast. But it's not a good thing for our lake. It's too small.
Well, what's been touched on a couple times here is that you brought up the issues of the snow machines. Okay, now the question I have is, you initiated lake management plan, and of course, you've kind of already answered in some regards, is that you'll write it up no matter, in any means, what the community wants to do. It's just like, how far are you going to go with it? Because in the wintertime, you got a bigger problem with snow machines that are coming in on that lake. They don't even live there. They don't have to have an access. They don't have to have a trailer. I've seen them come in over off the Kalmbach side. You know. Right. So I mean, but once again, is how far do you go? I mean, because I've known a couple of people that's had planes on that lake. The problem with the planes unless that's changed totally, is that you can't regulate airplanes on a lake management plan. It's got to go through FAA. So there's a stumbling block. So, I mean, there are some things that everybody's been kind of hitting on it. We need to get together, just talk about. There are some considerations that we can probably all come to a consensus on without even really going as far as putting the plan in place. Right. But because there again, as far as the enforcement, my feelings on enforcement anymore, unless you don't tell whoever you're calling up, there's a gun involved, they're going to blow the whole thing off. We'll get to when we can. So then what do you have? Vigilante group going out there?
We have somebody online that's been patiently waiting. So go to that, but we can come back to more people in the room.
All right, Melissa, are you on there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, go ahead.
First of all, I just wanted to agree with the gentleman before me, and that's one of the chats that I put down. Signs are great, but they need to be respected, A, and secondly, if they're not respected, they need to be enforced. And Melanie was speaking earlier, we're on Kalmbach, and our trailhead, it's disgusting. It's supposed to be a walking path only. There are very few people that listen to that. So how do you enforce that? I've gone out with my gun. I have no right to use my gun outside of my house. But why do I have to do that? There are kids playing. I mean, Melanie even there was a guy leering at her children. So, I mean, something has to be done. I don't know if we need a management plan, but how do you want to enforce things that we decide on? That's what I want to know. Can we get a ranger in here?
All right.
Oh, no. That goes to Bill. Hey, let's make a list.
You want to make a list? You want to make a
I
deal?
was gonna have to describe to it, but she said she worked for you and not for me. So
Yeah, it's the big boss.
She works for no one.
I serve no
She's a
master.
girl renegade.
She doesn't even work for the taxpayers.
Okay, so I need to call to attention that, yes, I know that we have people that want to speak. I think that we have a good running list of kind of themes, and we've heard a lot of like general ideas that kind of everybody is agreeing with, or maybe not agreeing with what's said, but understanding that like there are some common themes. So you want to tap? You want to say a couple things? Okay, so we're going to do this, and then we're going to start doing the breakout and kind of going through these lists and like seeing what y'all can come up with.
So I'll try to keep this, I guess, rather quick. So I'm a bit in the middle when it comes to this discussion on what we're talking about. Like I said, when we first moved into Beverly Lake, it was an extremely quiet place. First thing we wanted to do when we bought our house was buy jet skis. That's exactly what we were going to do. And it was you that informed me that wasn't the best idea. But once the ice went out and it was actually summertime and you had all the balloons and the swans and everything else, we got them, right? It used to be a very quiet place to live. In the valley, you wouldn't see anybody before the road and before all the new houses came in. There was wildlife, kids could be out there paddleboarding all day. And I guess one thing that's changed in the last couple of years is there's a lot more activity on the lake and a lot more jet skiing and boats. When people have brought up the float planes before, and those have been there in the past, but those are extremely respectful people, the people that were actually on the lake. If you own a $200,000 plane, you're not ripping it out at 1 in the morning. It's like a different scenario that you're talking about. But those guys are good. They do a circle around the lake, they make sure no kids were there, and then they take off and go. But I mean, what I've seen in my own household, having my family and my kids there, is when those activities are going on in the lake, you're also pushing other people off the lake that aren't able to be out there enjoying it. Sometimes they'll be out on the lake. My wife and my daughter paddleboard, and they like to do that. My wife is an environmentalist. I'll give her that, right? I'm an environmentalist by default because I'm married to her. But that's the way it works, and she enjoys it, and we enjoy it. But as soon as that happens, she literally has to book it to the dock and take my daughter off. So I'm not big on management plans or enforcement or things like that. But when we say we can all just get together and come up with an idea ourselves or talk to your neighbors, it doesn't work like that. Somebody walks into my yard and says, hey, your kids are out there getting the hell off the lake. That's nowhere to go. Or we've had those conversations. We've been here for 45 years. So you tell me what to do. We live here too. It's a big deal. So that's the reason we're having the discussion. I think there's a happy medium somewhere that works for everybody. Hopefully we can respectfully get there, because I like hearing kids out on the lake. I think it's a good thing. I think kids playing is great, but then at the other hand, there's other people that want to ride their canoe. The kids are going to be able to paddleboard with their moms. It's something to consider as we go into this conversation.
Well, that's just to add one thing, is that's the problem, is a lot of it comes from that one area, and we can sit and talk and say, hey, we all agree on this. Tomorrow, there'll be new people living there. That, I mean, it's just constantly, those houses down there have been changing people constantly. I mean, it's just like, oh, you live there now, oh, you live there now. It's hard to say, oh, let's have this unanimous agreement between us, because people are constantly moving out. There's so many more people there.
So, are you sure?
Are we gonna be having what we can fill up the board with?
Oh, yeah. We have so much paper up here.
Oh, yes.
So much, so many lists. Okay, so I have a feeling that most of you are sitting by people that you know and kind of have similar views on lake management plans. Am I kind of right?
Not necessarily.
Okay, if I ask you to divvy up yourselves into groups that, so you've all, I mean, almost everybody here has taken a chance to talk about how they feel, what they want, their concerns. Can you guys split yourselves up into groups that would, you don't think so? Should I start numbering you off?
Oh, yeah,
You want me to number off?
yep, that's how you do it.
Oh, God, I was never a school teacher or anything. This is really.
We all went through that. We all went through that. We should know how to do it, right?
Better to put people that want it and people that don't want it together. I mean, if you just number. if you
Yeah,
get
why
a
don't
bunch
we
of
just know
choices.
how many want the, how many want it and how many don't? And then.
I mean, it's a lot of middle.
Yeah.
So,
Austin.
If you just number everybody off, I was thinking that you could just end up with a whole ton of people that want it or a ton of people that don't want it in big groups.
Or maybe just point at your.
I don't know, 6 groups of 5, there's about 30 people here. That's 30, right? Pretty bad.
Common
quick math.
core or regular?
So, the thing that I should be very straightforward about lake management plans is that unless there is a overwhelming support for a borough-written, assembly-adopted lake management plan, there won't be one, because the assembly is not going to adopt a lake management plan that half of the residents on a lake don't want. So this is your opportunity to talk as neighbors about actual solutions to the problems that you all have listed on the lake. If you just want to leave now and to not talk through anything, like that is your right. You can absolutely do that. If you actually want to get to the root of some of these issues that make living like that lessen your quality of life on your lake, then like you all need to work together. And if you don't want the borough to be a part of that, like we're cool, we can sit up here and just like let y'all hash it out. If you want us to help facilitate that conversation with, between yourselves, like we're stoked to be here and really happy to help. This is what we do. We like working with communities. Like this is our job. So we're all stoked to be here. But yes, like the thing that I worry about with grouping people who know that they don't want one and people who know that they do is you're really disconnecting yourself from creative ideas and like actually working together to find some sort of common solution. Right, and so numbering off, that's why I was like, okay, we could do 1 through 5 and just everybody picks a table, right? And we just go for it.
Actually, one quick question. What's going to happen 2 days from now when the whole thing is on Zoom or internet?
Oh, we're just gonna have a group conversation instead of a group. I was expecting that the majority of people that actually wanted to talk about this would show up, and you have. So the Zoom or the Teams meeting on Thursday is gonna be the same PowerPoint, but it's gonna be a little less interactive just because you all are here, and that conversation that happens organically is what we all get to experience by taking the time to be in person. So.
Are you going to go over the same stuff again? Or
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's not like a continuation.
It is not a continuation. It is the same PowerPoint slides, the same, like, I'm going to be giving the same information on what the borough has to offer and taking into consideration. So that should also be said that, like, because there is a meeting on Thursday, the likelihood of there being any sort of like, we're gonna vote tonight and there shall be a lake management plan or there shall not, like, that's probably not going to happen tonight. We can, if it makes you feel like you have a better sense of what's going on moving forward, to take a vote with everybody in here to see black and white where everybody stands on the lake management issue, like, we can absolutely do that. And that's an option too.
To the point that you do take that vote though.
So like, if we here in this meeting do not, by the time 6:30 rolls around, have any sort of consensus about moving forward, there's really only 2 options. Like I said, the borough is not, like, I'm not going to start drafting a plan that I know is not going to pass the assembly or is not even what you all want. That's a huge waste of my time. So you can essentially choose the next step of having like more meetings like this, having more time to work with your neighborhood in a way that's constructive to try and come up with a solution to what's going on your lake. I mean, you can also just leave, act like this never happened and live your lives of Beverly Lake. And you know what I mean? Like, this is all within your hands. So, I mean, I think at this point, maybe we just need to vote to see who wants to actually work on solutions and who doesn't. Because if nobody is really interested in coming up with any, and nobody's really interested in a lake management plan, then you should all be very like honest with yourselves about that and with us. And I mean, we can just do that. But I think that it would be a mistake to leave without trying to at least talk through some of these things with your neighbors.
So if you have more meetings, or is it something that you guys are gonna be, or is it something that the neighborhood has to get together and create?
Well, I don't have a psychology degree, so I don't think I can be your neighborhood therapist for super long time. Although I would love it. No, we will facilitate meetings moving forward if it feels like something that people are wanting, that the borough, like, it's a good use of our time to be here to help you facilitate this so that you can ultimately end up with a lake management plan or not, but I mean, you should just, yeah.
I wonder if maybe it was a bit early for the meeting for people that work.
Oh, I mean, that's also, that's why there's two meetings.
Yeah, but it's not different.
The library is only open until 7, so we've had to work with what we have to
catch everybody. That's why.
They also give us the room for free because we're a government organization. So,
we're out.
your tax dollars.
Yeah. We need to start planning, what people like and don't like.
I agree. I don't know that we should do that as a larger group, though. I'd like to get people together talking about it.
Right, but it actually, just ask them, safety of the kids, everybody's for safety of the kids, right? Always use, isn't there a borough time limit already on stuff like that?
On what?
On like loud and obnoxious.
Kind of, but not.
Kind of.
Kind of.
There either is or there isn't.
Well, I don't know, because I only manage the lake management plans, and I am not a full-blown code enforcement expert for the borough.
Usually it's 8 to 10.
Sure, but
8 AM to 10 PM.
that is not borough-wide.
No, but it can be lake-wide.
Okay, well, we've got some different ideas of what to do. What are you guys feeling? Like this, we don't have to follow my PowerPoint, but I do want to make sure that I mean, everybody's busy. We all have things going on. So what's a good use of your time here? And what would you like to see out of this meeting? What does a successful meeting look like to you?
We're ready for some small groups.
I'm ready for you guys to talk to each other.
How would it be enforced? How would it be enforced if we didn't want this, if we didn't want the borough?
Hold on, everyone. We want to be able to make sure that everybody online hears. So a few questions.
Either way, if we didn't want the borough involved, if we decided on like curfews or whatever you want to call it, quiet hours or whatever. And so much like keeping away from the lake zones, keeping away from the shores and stuff for the birds. Whether the borough's involved or not, there's no way that can be enforced.
So that's why we have to get together so we can talk about it, because clearly there's enough.
No, there's no physical person on the lake.
There's enough dissent. I mean, first and foremost, we're neighbors. We have way more in common than we don't. We're all going to be there for each other in case of an emergency. So it'd be really nice if we can kind of come to a consensus, and I think it's important to have this meeting for that reason. But I'd be really nice.
I'm feeling like I'm gonna go with my idea, and I'm gonna have to lead a number of you guys off. And if at the end of, maybe we'll just even give it 15 minutes, y'all are like, what are we doing here? I don't know what's going on. Then we'll regroup and we'll go from there. But right now, we're gonna number you off. there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables, so we'll go to 6. Or go to 5, is there only 25? Okay. We'll go to 5, we'll split you up into groups. I have a couple of like flyers that kind of lay out at least what the borough can do to support enforcement. We have some questions up on the screen. We've got some lists that you all can reference, and me and Lita and Maya can be walking around answering questions, working through these things, but just start thinking about what are some possible solutions for, like, you know, what can I do to make sure that my neighbor and I can both enjoy our hobbies? Like, what does that look like to you? Does that look like a Facebook group? Does that look like code enforcement? Just start talking about that. Start talking about solutions to this. So.
What if put that out there as a group? So yeah, we'll remember that.
One more quick comment, you guys, thinking about another task within your group is not only talk about solutions to the issues that we've talked about, but also generating questions that you guys might have as a group too, that you might want us to answer or help you guys understand better too.
Your groups of 5 are way too small. I've been a teacher.
They are.
I suggest you go with 4 groups of 7 or 27. That might be too noisy.
Especially with couples.
Or maybe even 3 groups of 10. No, that's too 9-ish.
Well, we've got 5 tables. We've got 5 tables. We're just gonna go with that. So Kelsey, while I am numbering people off, if you could put a sheet of paper on each group and give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each, so we know, folks know where they need to go. I am just gonna number you off. I'm sorry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. Yes. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 and 2. Okay, so Kelsey's gonna throw a sheet of paper with your number on it. Please find your table.
Hey. All right.
Would I need to mute it on here? Okay.
So I might have questions. Okay, potentially. So let's. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Is the background noise too loud here, or does it sound okay?
It sounds okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I know some of you have kind of chimed in a little bit on some of your thoughts and feelings, but I feel like I can kind of be here to kind of take notes about the things that you guys want to have discussions about, some solutions you guys might have, or other questions you might want us to answer.
Hey, Maya,
Yeah.
this is Ted. Hey, everybody in the chat. I did respond in case people didn't see it. I was asked to facilitate, and unfortunately, I had to get home and take care of my animals. My wife is away on work out of town. But one of the things I recommend is, sometimes, people on these discussions get very positional, and I think sometimes it's really good to relate what you heard rather than what you think sometimes, because that process doesn't have to take very long, and then then jump into it. I think the opportunity is, how can we meet these different interests without a lake management plan? And if you can't come up with something, then maybe there's a consensus you need a lake management plan. So anyways, I have to drop off, but Maya, thank you, and I apologize, everyone. But remember, everyone loves their lake. They just love it different ways, and we have to figure out how we can give that lake a group hug without ruining it for each other. So, okay, bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, Ted.
Bye.
Can I just I think for me, the biggest the biggest issue is enforcement. And I think that most of us, we talk. I talk to my neighbors. I know Mel, my neighbor, talks to just about everybody in the community. And for me, I use my little path. I like it to be quiet. I walk to the lake. I don't bother anybody. I don't want it motorized, and it shouldn't be. So I fought with people. Mel has fought with people. Maybe fight is a big word. But who am I, my little person, to say, hey, there's a sign there that says, walking path only. Oh, I didn't see it. Really? Well, how old are you? And you can't read? Because it's been used. It's been done in the past. So we have to change mindset. And I guess, like I said, my biggest concern is, how do we enforce this mindset? I don't necessarily want a lake management plan. I just want us to get along and each of us to respect each other. But that's not happening because there are outsiders coming in as well.
Do you have ideas for what you would envision?
Don't ask. I can get gnarly. I really can. But usually we go out, we ask people. If they're not meant to be there, they'll leave soon if they see that there's activity. But do both of us have to go out there every single time? And I have gone out with my gun because I don't know who it is, but I don't have the right to use it. I don't have the right to say, hey, get off. I'm not going to do that. But I could get shot. You see what I'm saying? So I don't. That's why I said, can we have a ranger? Can I be a ranger? Will you pay me to be a ranger? I'll do it. That's my 2 cents. And I like for Beverly Lake, and it doesn't really touch me, but I understand, there's wildlife, people want to have fun. So there's got to be a happy medium somewhere. If you put signs out, that's great. But the signs, once again, have to be enforced. How do we do that? And I've talked too much. So the rest of y'all, go ahead.
Anybody
I
else?
think, I believe that just being aware that people are upset about different things and being more courteous, it would be nice if people could say kind of what they want, like instead of saying, oh, we don't want jet skis at all, you know, but maybe if they could say, well, and I do feel pretty strongly about this. Like, I do see people out there fishing and they're trying to have a nice quiet time on the lake. And I don't think a jet ski should be rolling, you know, going round and round in circles around them. I think they should have their privacy when they're trying to fish, because a jet ski is going to scare the fish away and they can't have the time that they're trying to get. So I don't think jet skis and people floating quietly on the lake trying to fish are a good combination. I totally agree with that. I don't like anybody being reckless. I personally haven't seen anyone being reckless. And I think if someone is being reckless and almost running over kids, that's when you call the police. You don't need to call the Matsu Borough. Like, you call the police and have them come out. Because that's what I would do if someone was at Big Lake, they wouldn't ban the whole lake from having motorized activity. They would call the police if someone was being reckless.
Yep.
So anyway, I just feel like if people could have maybe that were upset, maybe just come to the neighbor's door and talked about it, and even among ourselves, you know, make some kind of thing. Like, for sure, you know, we shouldn't have jet skis, you know. I mean, Alaska summers, we go to the grocery. I'm in bed but as early as I can possibly be in the winter. It's dark and I'm tired and feels like it's midnight. But in the summer, you know, we're grocery shopping at 10 o'clock and gardening, and like, so 9 or 9:30 in the summer is not that late. And we cannot hear the jet skis. I mean, it's a very little, you know, people can say whatever they want about how loud it is, but if you go in your house, it's not that loud. You can barely hear it in your house. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I don't know if anybody else has anything to say. Everyone is muted.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who's online here? Oh, I see someone with a hand up. Go ahead, Judy.
Well, I was just going to say, I agree that, you know, there is a time and a place for jet skis. If they're allowed and out there late at night, that's a different situation than if the family is enjoying, you know, a good afternoon on a nice summer day, which we don't have a lot of sunny days. You know, if they're out there for a while, if they could cut it off a little earlier so that they don't disturb people who might want to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. But, and also the fact that they don't need to be running full bore, they could run them a little slower, you know, not cause so many waves. But actually, I've seen so many of the swans and the loons and the ducks. I personally haven't noticed that there's been a big decline in them in the 4 years that I've been here. But because we hear the loons, I hear the loons, I'm across the street from it and I hear it all the time. And if I go down to my daughter's house, I hear and see the loons. But at the same time, we don't want them to go away either. So if everybody could just try to be a little bit more moderate in their use of the lake and consider the wildlife and also other people, like Wendy says, if they're fishing. But it's just one of those things that everybody really needs to compromise a little in order for everybody to enjoy the lake.
Judy, how do you explain that, or how do you teach? This is Melissa. How do you teach people that are not from our area? Because there are people that come in from outside of this area, and maybe they're doing what is not good, or how do you control that? I mean, I think we can talk amongst each other and we can come to a solid understanding, no problem. But then when we've got, you know, kids or, you know, gnarly little ones that talk back and flip people off and stuff like that, I mean, yes, you call the cops and we keep calling the cops and keep calling the cops until it stops. I don't know. It's a question, really.
I have never seen anyone on our lake that didn't live on our lake. I've never seen anyone. We have not had any visitors on our lake that I ever know of.
You're speaking about Beverly Lake?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think Kalmbach might be a little bit different.
Yeah, I've never seen, I live across the street from there. And in our area, you have to come through a gate. Now, I don't know if you came off Beverly Lake Road. It sounded to me like one of the men said that there was access from Beverly Lake Road to get to the lake. I've never seen that access, and I don't know, but I really don't know how you could enforce some of the things except for possibly call the police. But I just think if people that are on the lake could all compromise and think of everybody else, how they would enjoy the lake. I mean, we just all have to think that everybody has the right to enjoy their life, and it is a lake. Bought on.
I would even agree to putting jet skis up at 8 o'clock, except for maybe on a holiday, because a lot of times those people are fishing out there, say after 8 o'clock, and I really don't want to disturb them. I don't personally even ride the jet ski. Our kids do, and our grandkids do, but I mean, just from what's happened so far, just with this, whether it goes through or not, even if it doesn't go through, I will be more conscientious in the future. And you know what? I know all the people that ride jet skis on our side of the lake. Okay, on our side of the lake, that's where almost every jet ski is. And I know every neighbor that has a jet ski. And you know, they're all very approachable and really, really nice. The people 2 doors down from me, Olga and I forgot her husband's name. I want to call him Paul, and their last name is Lusick. They are so approachable. If anyone had a problem, they would be so nice about it. You know, like it's just a matter of, you know, I mean, if they just want you to not do anything motorized on the lake, then that's a different story. But like, just to come by and say, hey, could you be courteous to us? Could you make a change? I would do that. You know, I would make a change.
So it seems, I mean, it seems like you guys are putting in a pretty good effort to be thinking about things from the perspective of other people on the lake, using the lake in different ways than you are. I think that's great. Do you guys have, I guess, thinking about real, like, tangible ways that you think you could, like, facilitate that kind of compromise, or ways that you think communicating with the other people on the lake that you think could be effective going forward?
I just feel like if everyone was a little bit reasonable and a little bit would compromise a little bit, that it could be worked out. And I still do have a real problem with people buying on a motorized lake and then complaining about it. Like, okay, you know, you do have legitimate complaints, but but you bought on this lake. You know, and it did change over the years. The one guy said, I've been here 45 years and our wildlife, our birds have decreased. Well, of course, because over 45 years now, the whole lake is built up, you know, there's families all around the entire lake. So of course it's going to decrease. You know, you're not going to have as many birds as you did, but there's still lots of birds. There's trumpeter swans, there's loons, there's ducks. We had so many ducks. It was incredible. So
45 years ago, there wasn't very much traffic even at all on Beverly Lake Road, much less the lake. So that's true in 41 years of time. People have, and there is, but that doesn't mean that if you're motorized, you should not be able to use anything motorized. But I agree with you. I feel that there should be a compromise where everybody can enjoy the lake, sometimes peaceful, sometimes not. But on really nice summer days, which we don't get very many of, and on home, it is nice to have the family have a barbecue, you know, watch all the young people out enjoying the lake without them terrorizing the people on the shore.
Roberta, I see that you're still on the call too, and I'm just wondering if you have anything that you want to contribute to the conversation.
Hi. I just feel like there could be a compromise. I feel like even if they had certain days of the week that the jet skis would stay off and allow the fishermen that like to go and cruise around, or the people that are unmotorized vehicles that they have, that they like to go. I think a compromise of that nature would help, just, come to some agreements. I just hate to have the government come in. I've lived in Alaska a long time. And it seems like you get one step and then another and another, and rules keep approaching onto your rights. That's all I have to say.
How do people agree that whenever you're fishing on one end of the lake, jet ski stays on the other end of the lake?
Well, that would work too. But such a small lake. It's such a small lake that someone previously said that it's not big enough for jet skis. So if jet skis had to stay on one side of the lake, that doesn't sound like much fun for them.
No.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be a good idea, because even to get to and from your house, you might be interrupting the people fishing.
Right.
I think Roberta's idea is a great idea. Certain days are like non-motorized and other days are motorized. I'm just thinking about fishing. Anything that here is something motorized is going to be troubled as far as wildlife is concerned. So, I mean, have certain peak days that are only for certain things. I think it's a wonderful compromise. My opinion.
I'm gonna pop out for a second and go grab a charger, but you guys go ahead and keep having a conversation.
Does anybody know if Kalmbach is motorized or not motorized?
I think it's non-motorized.
Okay, that's what I thought as well, which is why we have a walking trail and not a motorized trail.
I know we're in this situation now and there's nothing that can be changed because of all this, but it still goes back to the fact that, like, I personally would never buy on a non-motorized lake and then go in and try to change the rules and go to Matsuburo and say, I want it motorized, because there are motorized lakes I could buy on. So why would I go buy on a non-motorized lake if I don't want to be on a non-motorized lake? And it's the same situation here. Like, these people are all on a motorized lake. What part of that did they not understand when they bought their house? It's just like,
maybe not.
Everybody, I'm a realtor and everybody gets those covenants. They get it from the title company prior to closing. They get it way just after they buy something. I mean, everyone gets the covenants. If you don't read them, then that's your own fault.
Is this Wendy speaking?
Yeah.
Okay, Wendy, I'm a bit stupid as far as real estate is concerned. So when I bought this house, I had no clue. I mean, I knew I was on a lake, but I didn't even know that motorized versus non-motorized existed. But I agree with you 100%. If you're buying on a motorized lake, then you have to expect motors. I guess what people are saying is it's the type of motors. I don't know. Is there a difference between, like, are there turbo jet skis that maybe can be ruled out and just normal jet skis? I don't know. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking about was, unless I got two men confused, I had a little bit of trouble hearing, was somebody that said they lived on the lake, and I don't know if it was the same one that said he 40 something, that when he first lived on the lake, he had a jet ski. And then I thought it was the same man that later said the lake was too small for a jet ski. So I don't know if I got confused or not, but it's possible after he's lived there all these years, he's gotten older, he doesn't want a jet ski on there. But at the same time, other people, live on the lake that want to have a motorized vehicle. So there need to be a compromise that he's living on a
and the pictures been drawn that like this is just some wild and crazy lake. Like somebody said 50% of the time. That is, I mean, I would not even say 20% of the time are there jet skis out there. It's pretty random.
It
It's
seems
not,
when the jet skis are really
not
out
that
on a
often.
say a nice summer, you might hear them out. I don't get the noise. You know, like when they sing. There's
For some reason, we can't hear you, Judy.
You're cutting up, Judy.
okay. Well, I basically try repeating myself anyway. So okay.
Maybe it's just a glitch with your internet. I wish that there could be, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's all right.
Well, I wish there could be like just some rules among the community that we try to follow that are just without a full-blown management plan. But I guess that, you know, I don't know what to say.
Wendy, maybe we need to have a block party like every year, this huge summer picnic so that people can reconnect and actually see each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that is probably kind of nice, although this seems like a really hot topic for some people. And I don't know how well that would go.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I like where you're going with that. Just thinking about finding ways, you know, you guys are talking a lot about the community members having awareness, being courteous, considerate, reasonable, like all of these kind of recurring statements. And a lot of it, you know, in a perfect world would come down to being able to communicate with each other. And I think the idea of connecting in order to build those relationships is a good idea. I like that.
I like it too. You know that at my last neighborhood, there was a lady that had like an open house, and she had chili and cornbread in the fall, and she'd send a little invitation out to her neighbors, and like from 4 to 6, you're welcome to come for chili and cornbread. And then she got to know the neighbors, and they visited. And well, so I mean, it's not a bad thing to get to know the neighbors. All the neighbors I know, I really like. And it does feel a little awkward though, because one of the neighbors, I know some of the neighbors down Kyle's circle that I'm sure they all voted yes, they wanted a management plan. And I was a little annoyed because they're not even on our lake. And I was like, well, why do you care? But they're really nice neighbors, and I really don't want this to cause divisions with them.
Wendy, maybe they just said, yes, they want one like me because I was curious. I didn't know what a lake management plan was. Not necessarily that I wanted one, but I voted yes to have this meeting so that we could all get together. So maybe it's just a case of that.
Possibly, except for they're all on the homeowners association board, and they're pretty educated about it. I think they're pretty educated. I think they actually know what they're voting on. But that's a good point.
It's good to keep in mind too the idea that the point of that vote was to get everyone in this room together to have the conversation, whether that means you end up having a lake management plan or not. That wasn't, you know, it wasn't a vote to make that decision. It was really just to get everyone in the same room and be able to talk through these things and hear what other people have to say and listen to those perspectives and just get a better community understanding of what the issues are.
It's definitely sobering because, like, you realize that your neighbors are affected by what you do, and they have, well, of course we knew that when those people were flipping us off across the way. But the thing is that, you know, it makes you more aware that you really do have to, you try to make people happy and not push their buttons.
And also aware of what's happening in like the neighborhood, not necessarily right next door, but in our bigger neighborhood where the lakes are, because the lakes are pretty much adjacent to one another. So we're all affected by all that back area too, right?
Mhm. I know that Olga wrote it as well, and I don't know if she got Tanya and Nick. I forget. Well, Mom, what's their last name? Judy is my mom. Mom,
Rania.
what is their last name?
Rania.
What is it?
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna start checking in with people, so maybe if you wanna,
Do you want us to have a specific, like anything specific to share, or what are your thoughts on?
I think if there are any sort of compromises happening where people are like interested in having one thing and working through another or something, like if there's any compromise on the table to bring that. Otherwise, working through any sort of like shared values, things like that.
I don't know if you guys heard Kelsey there, but we're kind of getting close to wrapping up here. Some of the things that I wrote down, and feel free to, I kind of have my highlighted notes, feel free to correct me or change anything, but I wrote down the words awareness, courteous, moderate, considerate, reasonable as kind of, goals or values that you guys were circling back on. Potentially, talking about compromise, the idea of limitations in different areas or on certain days or times or things like that. Potentially, again, this isn't written in stone or anything like that. Also having like building community rules to follow just within your own community, and then creating opportunities for the community to connect, whether that be an annual picnic or something like that. Those are kind of the highlighted notes I had on here.
That was good notes.
Good.
Is there anything else you guys want me to add in there that we might share?
Yes, just enforcement. And that's an open question.
Yeah, maybe a question of like, what would that look like and what would the options there be? Yeah.
Singing or something?
Okay. All right, I'm gonna just move you guys back over there, so I'm gonna mute myself. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Break out and discover, not pointed. I'm pretty happy that we did. No, everybody, Lita and I were just kind of little flies on the wall, and y'all are talking about some really awesome things, so we're happy with that. Well, there's a couple different ways that we could do this part. Lita has some cool ideas, but we can also just kind of like go table by table, and maybe people can just like recap what they've been doing. We have some folks that we're really focusing on like the tie that binds and what everybody lives on the lake for. Group 2, I feel like there's a lawyer in here or something, because you guys are like compromise central. You're like negotiating and doing this, which like the planner and me loves that. But yeah, so Lita, I feel like you had some thoughts that like you saw some deeds going on.
I think one of the biggest things that I wanted to point out is that you do have a black and white choice between engaging in the process to get a lake management plan with the borough or not. And I understand that. And I feel like for many of you, that's a very weighty decision. However, what I'm hearing is that even from the folks who do not wish to have a lake management plan and who want to be able to utilize the lake how they like to, they also appreciate that keeping kids safe is really important. They also like seeing the birds and the wildlife on the lake.
they also probably appreciate that they don't want to create, you know, an erosion problem or a dock floating off. You know, that's not the intention. So I just want to refocus us a little bit to really understand that we are not at odds here. This is a group of people who live on a lake for a reason, and you have a lot more in common, I think, than you think you do. So I don't want you to think about it in such emotionally wrought terms of like, it's yes or no, and there is no middle way. So if folks kind of also feel that way, I think it would still be really a good use of time to make a list of things that you're okay with and that as a group you would be okay with. So if you would be okay with some quiet hours and you come to a general consensus about quiet hours as a group, you're right. It would not be enforceable unless you decide to get the borough involved. But you could sit here in a room and say together, after 6 p.m. in the middle of the week, we're all just not going to use our power toys, you know? So that feels like it might be a fruitful use of people's time. It's really up to you. I think that pointing out what table 2 is actually going through could be really helpful for everyone. And then me and Liz, no, I liked the pragmatic approach to it and the compromise approach to it. So I printed out these before the meeting that just show these are actually what the borough is able to enforce. Table 2 has been going through and going line item by line item and seeing if there is any room for compromise on all of them. They have one member that is absolutely no motorized use whatsoever. And they have one member that is, I want to be able to use my jet ski whenever I want to. And I don't think that if I'm responsible, that's a bad thing. And both people have a place at the table, right? Like both opinions need to be heard. So they've been working through compromises with this list in mind, just to see what they would be okay with ending up with. You don't have to do it that way. You can certainly just talk amongst yourselves and like really try to consider what a good enough option for everybody to agree on would be. But I thought that was a really innovative way to find consensus. So maybe we'll give you till about 6:15 to kind of come up with a list of things that you think would be an option for moving forward with this process for you.
I don't know what that is. There's a couple things.
Hey guys, I just popped sorry, there's a lot of background noise, but I just popped a list into the chat of items that Kelsey was referring to that are within borough powers. So if you guys want to take a look at that, I'm going to mute myself again here, but if you guys want to unmute and have a conversation about those items specifically, or if you just want to type some thoughts into the chat, that is great as well.
Are you talking about looking on the screen right now with what's on there where it says take time to brainstorm in your small groups? That's the only thing I see unless I'm in the wrong place.
So if you looking at your screen, down towards the bottom, there's a little, it's kind of like a circle bubble. If you click on that, it shows you it's the meeting chat list. So there's a bunch of kind of conversation happening in there throughout the meeting. And the last message in there, are you able to see that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So yeah, that list is what is within borough powers if you want to just talk more specifically about those things.
So one thing
But-
is that
What is a wake zone?
such a thing called timeshares with any of the regulations that the borough would do for a lake management.
Zone, I think, is a space between either wildlife or the shore.
Okay, okay,
Something to that effect. I don't know exactly. Don't quote me.
okay.
In various areas, there's a setback. It can be either be 50 feet or 100 feet, depending on the water body. It's the distance between the watercraft on the water and the shoreline itself.
Okay. And lake zones. Okay.
That you have in front of you, consider that essentially an a la carte menu. If you have a lake management plan, you do not need to have specific regulations on every single one of those things. It's you pick and choose. If you want only quiet hours, then that's all you have. That's all the assembly would adopt. Like, it's not all or nothing. You pick and choose what you want, and you pick and choose when you want them. That's all.
All right, guys, sorry about that. Kelsey was just rehashing the fact that that's a list of what we could potentially do. But you guys do not have to have all of those things as a part of a plan. You could literally do anything you wanted to. It could be very specific. There could be little bits of things here and there. But just reiterating that fact that you guys can get creative with it and do whatever works well for you.
What would special permits be all about?
That's what I was wondering, the same thing.
Oh, say that one more time.
Special permits.
Special permits be, what are those?
I'm gonna actually snag Lita and let her give you a couple examples of that, because I am not sure what the answer is. I like examples of special permits.
Is the question focused on permits that apply to lakes and lake management, or is the question just generally speaking, what are permits that the borough has or can enforce?
Well, I was just wondering how special permits would affect us. I mean, what type of special? What would you need a special permit for?
For the lake. Oh, that would be specific to the lake management plan. So I think like ice house registration, I think is a good example of that. I think there was also an example of a lake where you needed to get a permit if you wanted to, like, I think it was a non-motorized lake. And if you wanted to get building materials to your home site, for instance, you would be allowed to apply for a permit so that you can, it'd be for like a certain date and time, and then you could have a boat on the lake specifically to complete that task.
Okay.
I think special permits is essentially a way of saying, if you wanted to go whole hog and put as many restrictions on the lake as we have the ability to do, you could do that and then kind of work backwards and have a series of special permits that would cover things like the example I just gave, so that it's, basically a good workaround for some logistics. But really, I think the special permits come into play only if you've put a lot of restrictions on the lake. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think so.
Did you guys have any other thoughts or questions about that list of items or anything else?
Yeah. When people are building.
That's the example I gave.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they're buildings and they can transfer.
Sorry, guys, I know there's a lot of background noise right now too.
So tomorrow, is it going to, or on Thursday, is it going to be all online people meeting, or will it be, a quick meeting in?
Yes, Thursday is going to be all online. We will be going through the same presentation that we talked about today. So it's not a continuation of the meeting today. It was just more like an alternate time and option for people who were not able to attend this meeting. That being said, you are certainly more than welcome to come and share ideas there as well.
So how's it going with the other groups right now? Like what's happening over there with the in-person people?
Yeah, so everyone, they're split into groups of like 6 or probably between 5 and 7 people, just at the table, kind of having similar discussions to what you guys are having. Some of them are talking through a little bit more specifically, like for instance, going through that list and talking about quiet hours and what they would be okay with or not okay with, things like that. Or just in general, again, like having a broader conversation like you guys have been having.
Lita?
Oh, Lita.
I'm here.
Okay, I'm because I don't live on Beverly, so I'm not concerned, by these things directly. But Kalmbach is right next to it, so I mean, there's different ways of getting into both lakes, and I guess I'm a little bit curious as to can we include Kalmbach because it is Beverly Kalmbach and they're right next to each other?
So if Kalmbach wanted a lake management plan, that would have to be a whole separate process. Okay. Sorry, I kind of was talking to Kelsey as she walked by. So Kalmbach is a separate lake and would need to go through the same process that Beverly Lake went through in order to have a management plan on that lake.
So is Kalmbach Lake people voting on what's going to happen on Beverly Lake?
I don't think there's a lot. I think there are not very many people. It's just people that are within that distance. And me personally, I'm not on the lake, and I will not vote because it doesn't concern
I think all the people on Kyle Circle and across the street from me, all those people that are on Kalmbach Lake are still voting about our lake.
Yeah, so I think there were.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, there were people who were likely scooped within that 600 foot.
Yes.
That aren't actually on the lake proper. But as Kelsey mentioned, that distance applies to many things beyond lakes. And so, frankly, if during this process it was, made abundantly clear to borough staff that really the public feels like the only people who should be voting on a lake management plan are the people who actually have property that abuts the lake, that would be a different conversation.
Unless you just talk to all of us that don't live directly on the lake and we don't vote. I mean, I don't see why I should vote on something that doesn't concern me.
You're certainly not obligated.
But I do want to deal with Kalmbach.
Yeah, so, okay, so I'm gonna do this now.
All right, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself and Kelsey's gonna start chatting here again.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, we went a little bit over our 5-minute mark, but it sounded like everybody was still wheeling and dealing, so I wanted to give you a chance to work through the final things. I have a question. I have a minute. Hey guys, so we now have the team that was on Microsoft Teams kind of like back in listening. So if everybody could quiet down so that if people have questions about anything, the people on Teams can hear the question and they can hear the answer. So it's back.
The question was about posting for bird nesting areas on shore or other mechanisms.
Actually, Maya, do we have anyone from Fish and Game that is still on Teams that maybe might be able to answer that? They were questioning and Tracy. Awesome. So they were just wondering if people want.
So, there you go. All right, Tracy or Sarah, are either one of you guys there to chat a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't hear the question. Please go ahead and if you could repeat it.
Yeah, so the question is just if people would like to see postings about like loon habitat or any sort of like habitat postings for like maybe I'm guessing like a low wake zone or no wake zone or something around nesting loons. Is that something that ADF and G would do, or is the borough normally the person who does that?
I think I have an answer, but do you have one for like, do you know for sure, Tracy?
You can go ahead, Sarah, and then I'll recap on what you're on.
Okay. So it sounds like if you contact Wildlife Conservation, they have some signage available that I think it's primarily all kept in the Anchorage office. So like loon alert, you know, what to do, contact information for the wildlife troopers if you see harassment going on. I don't think they just have it sitting behind the front counter up here, but I think if you request it, that's something that they can be given out, but you still have to have permission from the upland property owner or the lake bed property owner to, you know, put in the signage.
Awesome, thank you. Did everybody hear that answer? That was a good question. So question was, can we get some signage for nesting loons, or like what would that process? The Department of Fish and Game does have signage like that for people. It's not particularly like ready at the owner office to go, but you can request it as a community and then have somebody go pick it up. And you would just obviously need permission of the property owner that you would be posting that on, because you would likely put it on land rather than. Oh, it's the state? Then we would just probably work with DNR to.
Tracy has a follow-up. She has her hand up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, no worries. So it also determines in if you're looking for an on the water signage versus one to be posted at the.
Tracy, you were actually muted. Can you start over, please?
Everyone, someone from Fish and Game is giving more information on that.
So on those loon nesting area signs.
Hey guys.
Please be quiet right now.
On the loon signage, there's two options. There's ones that are floating signage that can actually go on the water, but as Sarah mentioned, they have to be permitted for the substrate as to where the actual, like a mooring or a buoy would be placed, and the proximity in which they are actually placed within the nesting area. The other one is if it's just a sign at the access points. Both of those can be available through Fish and Game.
Awesome, thank you.
You bet.
Did anybody else have, so the next part of this conversation is, now that we have you all like talking about some compromises that you would possibly be interested in working on, I was just going to go through the tables and asking people what kind of compromises they came up with. Lita's going to record this up here, and then the next step is we can do a vote. We can say, how many people, raise your hands, want to move forward with putting these compromises into a lake management plan? Or we can, if people are agreeing on it, like we can facilitate another meeting like this with you all if that's something that you want. But we won't worry about next steps just quite yet. Table one, did y'all come up with any compromises? Do you have a spokesperson that wants to talk about it?
We only came up with. We only came up with some sort of owner should be present if people are going to be using their property, their boat launch using, but we don't know if you can mandate that. And we came up with a quiet time from Sunday through Friday of 10 p.m. and Friday and Saturday of 11.
Do you have when you would want to open that back up the next day? 10, like 10 to 8, 10 to 9, 10 to 10? Okay, that sounds good. Hold on, we're just going to get through it. So then...
Okay, so quiet time was 10 to 10 every day. But we like their plan of later after they mentioned it. Yeah, so you can put a little note there that we could go to 11 p.m. too on weekends. No restriction, no restrictions Thursday through Sunday and holidays. And that means jet skis allowed, boats of any kind allowed, whatever they wish. So Thursday through Sunday and holidays, no restrictions.
And when you mean no restrictions, you just mean no motorized restriction, right?
Yes.
Because you would still want quiet hours.
Yes.
Right, yes.
And then on Monday through Wednesday, 10 or less horsepower and no personal watercraft at all.
Will you say that one more time?
Yep.
Yeah. No, personalized water. I don't want to just get personalized or personal watercraft use as it's defined in borough code is just directly speaking about jet skis. And it is not in, like, motorized watercraft use is a separate thing. So if you want regulations on jet ski use, it would be personal watercraft use, not watercraft use.
Okay, so that was no personal watercraft Monday through Wednesday. And less than 10 horsepower Monday through Wednesday.
So that 10 horsepower, that includes my airplane.
Airplanes don't count and we can't regulate. The borough doesn't regulate anything to do with.
So I can tow water skis.
You're a troublemaker. Okay, what do we have at table 3?
He does.
We basically just came up with the quiet hours as far as we figured that 10 o'clock at night, 8 in the morning, 7 days a week, no quiet. Yeah, but holidays are exempt. Those are the national holidays, not the one you just decide to have a holiday. Have a reunion. No, it should not work. Okay, we came up with this, so we just want to eliminate jet skis entirely from a 40-acre lake. Paul made a great point earlier. He could be at that end of the lake, he could be at this end of the lake, and if there's a guy in the middle on jet ski, it affects both of us. Not to mention the wildlife, it's been there longer than all of us. And I'm kind of that guy, so maybe you don't like me, that's the way it is. I think they deserve more rights than we do. Because I run something, we get the hell out of the way, they flourish. We're in the way, they cut and run. And that's not why I live on the lake in the rural area called Westlaw. It just ain't. I mean, if you want to live where there's lots of noise and lots of fast shit, go there. Don't come to a 40-acre lake and mineral lakes and say, I can do whatever I can, please. Because I've noticed around here lately in the last couple of years, you can't tell grown-ups what to do. You can't mandate shit to me. And if it's got no teeth, even more so. So We're grown-ups here, we all want to enjoy our lives, as much as we got left of it. And we don't want to compromise other people. But again, I'm back to the, what's best for the lake. I mean, we're just stewards of that thing, we're gonna be gone, all of us. And that lake's gonna still be there. You wanna leave it looking like shit, or you wanna make it look like something people want to move on to enjoy. It's that simple. And we're the ones screwing it up, not the birds. Yeah, I get a little itch. Take a shower. But anyway, I'll my day. Yeah.
All right. What do you have, table 4? Go for it. Don't be scared.
I'm not scared. I'm used to mics. But as we talked, I don't know that we came up with a clear plan such as the other tables. We continue to just more have neighborly conversation of what do you think about this and that?
What do you think about this one?
What do we think of?
You guys are doing a really good job, I thought. Yeah.
Well, I will say, okay, I'll make it a little bit more personal for a second. So I came in here with an absolute no way, no rules, no regs. We have our own jet ski. Actually, his son has a jet ski. And in conversation, particularly with Paul, discovered someone from our household this summer had gone too close and caused injury to his dog. And then listening to some of the children conversations here, I've got grandkids and I've got kids. My mindset shifted on that one conversation because it was personal. I know Paul's a great guy, right? And if we cause injury, I'm not putting a jet ski in the water this year.
Last but not least. Do you guys have somebody who would like to speak?
Well, we didn't really come up with a plan either. We had a lot of conversation about it. But I do want to mention to Peter that we have a lake that has very little movement on it, and in no time it'll be filled in without a little bit of water movement going around. Not so much that you need erosion, but you do need some water movement in a lake. So don't count out those jet skis totally. So we don't have a plan, but we did discuss one of the people, or a couple of the people at our table also have the jet skis, and so they're more than willing to be respectful and talk to everybody. The only thing was is if you have someone that you want to go talk to, but it becomes a you did this and you did that thing, then it's kind of a bad situation. And in that case, I think, take a group of 10 or 20 people over to their house and say, hey, this just isn't acceptable.
Let me start a riot. Okay. So what do we got, Lito? Are there any things that people agreed on? Let's say quiet hours. I think that's the main one. That's the main one. We had some timeshare ideas, which I think are pretty creative. As far as no restrictions with motorized use on holidays and Thursday through Sunday, or a no personal watercraft Monday through Wednesday, but then you have some sort of motorized use available on the weekends and Thursday through Sunday and things like that. So does anybody have any comments on just the compromises that people came up with? And do you find some that you think are wow, yeah, that actually makes sense. I can support something like that.
I'm just curious why table 2 included Thursday on the weekend.
We are too, not all of us. That's the point. So I was gonna say, right? Consensus does not mean it is the perfect solution. It is a solution that you guys can live with. And that really is the point of recognizing that everybody is an individual who wants something very specific, and quality of life means something really specific for all of you. However, the commonalities that you all have in living on this lake, that means something. And so your consensus is saying yes, I see you, neighbor, and I hear you. I suppose that I can live with only doing my jet ski Thursday through Sunday. Because I understand that when I am out there doing that, that's taking away your time on the lake because you don't like to be out there reading when I'm out there doing that. So,
My thought is if there was a restriction, I think, Wednesday through Sunday, I don't get to spend a lot of time with my kids. That should be the quiet time, 10 horsepower limit, because I'm out of town a lot, working for many hours. And that's the only time I'm gonna spend with my kids. So I'd like to deal with that time on the lake with my kids and not have to worry about jet skis. So if we did implement that, or if we did go that route, I'd rather it be Monday, Tuesday, do whatever the heck you want. Because at least I can spend some time with my kids.
Or maybe if, I don't know what your schedule is, but maybe if we did a Sunday for family time, no jet skis, and a Saturday for yes, is that kind of what you're saying? Like
Yeah,
the weekend? Okay, I was gonna say, how old are your kids? They're gonna want a jet ski pretty soon, if they don't now. Yeah, thank you.
Doesn't matter what
So this is, we're coming up on the end of this meeting, and this is the point where everybody should be thinking about their next steps for this. Like, the conversations that I was listening to is like, oh, that was like, those kids were on your property? I didn't realize that. If I would have known that, I would have just come over and talked to you. And that was a theme on every single table. So in looking for next steps, like I said, we need at least 50% of residents to say, I absolutely want a lake management plan. Please go draw. For me to even begin the work. For it to be politically worth it for me to do that, it would need to be 65 to 70% of the people to say, I absolutely want a lake management plan. Because the assembly, like I said, they are not going to pass it if a ton of people don't want it.
So, quick question for you. So, and just, that's the best question I can ask. I think it's really interesting, the ideas that everybody brought up, as far as the timeshares and things like that, the quiet hours. There was some common, okay, we'll respect your rights, and then you can respect our rights as far as what we need, and find the middle compromise. But can you have a lake management plan that simply says those two things? I mean, it can be whatever we want it to be, right?
Yes.
So I'm actually looking at it and hearing everybody talk. It sounds like, there's a middle ground where everyone can be respected and get what they need out of it, and be happy to where they don't get everything, but maybe it's everyone can walk away and be good neighbors at the end of the day.
I don't know.
All right. There's a lot of us that don't know each other, and there's a few of us that don't know any of us. So my first suggestion is, why don't we just get together as an organization on the lake and have some kind of get together, barbecue, whatever. And get to know each other, and it can have you come to my house, and I go down the square feet. And, somebody like they used to do, welcome the neighbor to the neighborhood. Instead of getting in a big peeing contest with the neighbors on who wants what, screw who, do whatever. So let's just handle it as adults. Look, we don't like what you do in your airplane, or what you do on your jet ski, or what you do in your lake boat, but we're willing to tolerate it for this amount of time, or not. It's pretty simple. We got together here, we all drove here, so what's so hard about driving down the street?
Because the people that are the problem aren't here. That's true.
Well, if you showed up in my yard with a bunch of you better have vests on.
Exactly the point we're trying to make.
Right, and that's the thing, so you say, hey, come to my house, have
Yeah, but
coffee,
here's
have
the
a
thing,
beer.
you're gonna have a vest on, so that when I come to tell you, hey, I don't like this, you're gonna be ready to have a shootout. That's how it works. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But your lake management plan is gonna help you.
All right, so we can all agree that it may or may not work we may or may not leave it, bird, hey, birds taste good, okay, what should I say? Hey, water fountain. But we got here, we came here, we've had this problem raised before. So if we sit down and say, hey, look, we want to protect the loon habitat. That's a money into the lake, it's got leeches, it's terrible, the birds can have it. I fell off on water skis and that stuff before, it sunk up to my waist and slide. So, hey, the birds can have it. We'll just put a few barricades down there with signs on it. Somebody goes out of that and say, hey, your kid's out there tearing that stuff up. Or your dad's out there drunk again on the jet ski. You know, have your mom go get him off of it. Whatever. I'm sure we can come to something where we don't have the government shoving it down our throat. And that's because they don't have any teeth.
But I agree with you. I think we need to get together as a community.
We all live on the lake. That's one thing in common.
With each other, for each other.
And a good old fashioned southern barbecue.
Yeah, right?
What's that?
2 o'clock Saturday at your place.
Which Saturday? I'll make sure I'm not home. Hey, the door's unlocked, they'll go on in.
All right. Do you guys want to just have the next step be a barbecue at this dude's house?
No.
Okay, then.
So it's not the government shoving it down.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not the government shoving it down your throat, it's all of you guys shoving it down each other's throats. Is that a bad way to say it?
Wait a minute, so who enforces it?
Well, I'm saying that you all are the one who have to decide the regulations that you want. And so if you would like, we can just have the meeting on Thursday with the folks who weren't able to make it tonight. And I can compile all of this information. We can we will take all of this and we will put it into a summary for you all. And then you can discuss it some more. You can, I mean, if you would like a ballot, it's not in our code to have a second ballot, but we can certainly make one. If that's how you all want to do this process, I think that's completely understandable. It might be better to do it rather do it in person here, or would you rather do it at your homes where no one can see you? That's the question, right? And it's up to you at this point. If you would rather have both meetings, have that information, have some time to think about this, and then I can send out a ballot to people as well, if that's something that you want. And that would be an actual vote to say, I want a lake management plan or I do not want one. And then that would be kind of the end of that conversation.
It's not deciding what we want, it's just deciding whether or not it's in there.
Well, I think based on what I'm seeing here, we would have some ideas of what it would be.
Like you would use this as an outline, you would send it out to everybody, this is.
Yes.
As everybody has talked as a group, this is kind of what they're thinking and came together.
Or we can certainly just right here now, we can schedule another meeting and we can do this again. And we can, instead of taking time to get to know each other and understand the issues and the conflicts, we can have an actual working session about what you would like to see and how you'd want it. But I still don't know, and I don't think you guys know if you want a lake management plan or if you want to just be able to take care of it yourselves. But it sounds like there are people on both sides of that.
We still have the rest of us that we have input that are working, so.
Do you guys want to take a vote here now to see who wants one and who doesn't?
Question on the vote.
Yes. What's that?
First thing is, if we vote on it, is it just the people that are in this meeting, or is it gonna have to go back out to everybody that got a ballot?
Isn't that a good question? Oh, so yeah, no, there's still the meeting, this would not be the definitive answer. There's still people that are, we just want to see a consensus, how you guys think you want to move forward. But the meeting on Thursday, like I said, is not a continuation of this. It is an entirely different meeting. So those people would also have to work through these issues and talk with each other and do that.
And then there was another thing on the voting portion. Yeah, right. Let's say you do write up a plan. Okay, and I think it probably will, at least for me, I'm assuming it's probably some other people in here. would like to see what the plan is and read it before you vote on it.
How much time do you want me to spend writing a plan and being on the one more meeting?
I want to see a consensus, see if it's worth your time.
Right. I think more so than anything, it would be helpful to see if it is worth the borough's time to continue on with this project. If you guys don't want our help, then I can't do it for you. Like, that's not how this works.
Okay, so let's vote.
Is it
Yes, what?
that we want to plan because we don't think our neighbors are gonna be respectful of like duties?
Or compliant.
Or
Yes,
compliant?
and the people that move it.
So the new question on the floor is the plan would the plan be happening because you all feel, or maybe just certain people feel, that the, going forward from this and having this idealism of we are all going to be the world's greatest neighbors to each other, like how realistic is that? So that is a really good question to ask. And things like having a lake management plan for code enforcement, for quiet hours, like that is something that the borough does enforce and can enforce. Does it happen every single time that there's a call for somebody making noise at 11 p.m. when it should have stopped at 10? No. But like it is, like we do have the ability to do that. And we do answer these calls and we do send officers out and we do try to help communities manage themselves whenever we can.
Is there a time limit on this part? Now, we've said that we want to talk about it. Is there a timeline as a deadline to come up with a management plan? Can we go this summer after meeting as a community and, coming up with, an agreed hours and utilization? Can we go through a summer and see how our neighbors behave themselves, I guess? And then can we bring this back up in the fall after, said summer and, people either complying or not?
How long before you have to take another vote?
To answer your question, there is not a time limit on that. I think that's actually a pretty creative solution to what's happening right now, because we only have 12 more minutes in this room. But not just because of that, but because if you all have met each other and learned new things about each other and learned why the conflicts exist, the thought of you being able to exist cohesively together on a lake this summer, that actually sounds quite possible to me. So maybe that is something that you try. The actual answer to that is there is no time limit. If you want to go a summer and come back, you can. I would not recommend waiting 2 years. You would probably have to go through the ballot process again, just because people move and things like that. So that is an option. Hold on, before I get to any more people, did we have things from the online team that people wanted to share?
Hey guys, is there anyone online that wanted to share anything or contribute anything to the conversation?
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so.
Okay, so I'll make it really quick. So when you go through that process of collecting all the signatures, that is a pretty involved process.
Yes.
And I mean, you have to go to every single member's residence and talk to them and try to catch them when they're at home and when they're not in Prudhoe Bay and when they're not on the slope. So they got the majority of those signatures from within the Beverly Lake community because people felt like they wanted to have this conversation. So I think that by itself is a precedence that maybe everybody needs to have this conversation we had today. And in my opinion, the people that showed up were walking in this room either hard left or hard right on what was going on. And right now it seemed like everyone kind of found a peaceful middle ground that was reasonable. So I don't.
Because there's ice on the lake right now.
Well, yeah.
It's a great time to have this conversation.
It is, but when you look at it, I think a happy medium to me, in my mind, would make me happy and make everybody feel better would be quiet hours or sharing time like I said.
You guys.
So I don't think that's an unreasonable conversation to have, but us being in this room is already basically proof that we're not gonna go home this summer and everybody just fix it. That's unrealistic. That was last summer, the summer before, and the 10 summers before that. It's changed out in that community. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen. And getting 2 people to go gather all the signatures, that's a hard process to go through. So that's what got us here. And I think you already had the majority of the people on the lake say, we want to have this conversation. And it seems like we basically found a middle ground, or a somewhat middle ground, where people have a fair solution. That's, hey, you know what? I don't want anybody ripping around like at 2 in the morning either. That's pretty fair. Right? Or maybe we share some days where the paddle boarders, the nature enthusiasts can be out there, and then the kids can rip it up on holidays and the weekend. Like, I don't think we're all that far off.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely agree. You all have come really far on what you would actually be willing to compromise on. So we just got the time watch from the librarian. We have to end this meeting, and I think that it isn't unrealistic to say we should probably meet again. Like, you all are at the point where you have built some consensus around some very reasonable things on your lake. Even if you want to like just solidify what you're looking for and then enforce it yourselves, or have me write a lake management plan, either way, I think it would do you guys a really big service to just have another meeting. So if that can be the thing that we vote on and say, do we have, and I am in favor of continuing this conversation. Legit, raise your hand if you are. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, good job, by the way.
Thank you. Don't you worry about it. I will be in touch. Oh, please make sure that you wrote your emails down. There were a couple that I had that came back undeliverable.
This was kind of our guideline. Okay, so we suggested doing Sunday instead of, and we liked that. Most of us agreed on it. So going, can you tell me, yes, well, here, instead of.
What do you need me to wear?
Instead sorry. Like instead of maybe this one, just put certain days, and then that is what we need to talk about. Can I write